Can you address questions on getting access to this
Yes,
doc?
I'll be addressing all those details
Okay,
as we
perfect.
speak.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bhanu is the owner of the doc, so if anybody has issues accessing it, please let him know in the chat. All right, so we're looking at the timed agenda. Maybe we'll start from here and go into more details on questions and subtopics. I'll skip over the first part because I think like Bhanu, you and Kavya are still working on finalizing who the speakers are, and this is we don't need the team's involvement. Is that correct for this part of the contributor statement part?
No, actually, we need involvement
Okay.
from the strategy team members
Okay. All
to.
right.
So we have to finalize this together, as in we are going to approve as to speak on what topic, and yeah, those kind of things. So these 8 people would be hand selected by us.
So maybe Bhanu, do you want to start there? Who has confirmed and which ones are we still waiting on?
So as in, if I would, before going into this agenda and whom we are confirming, I think we should start with the subtopics, as in what is the agenda of the discussion, what are the subtopics, because the speakers would be based on what topics we are selecting, right? So whom we are calling, whom we are not calling. So it all
Yeah.
depend on the final
Let me
subtopics.
let me do this real quick. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So yeah, just like you know, first we'll just, the chair will open the meeting and imagine, and I'm going to ask you to imagine, this is very sort of inspirational from OECD type of format where, there are the folks from the UN, there is a multi-stakeholder kind of a panel, but it's mostly like academic experts. And when I say experts, it's not with the quote, it's the real experts who actually have a vested interest in many different countries' perception, understanding of these technologies and the impact. So anyhow, about, in a circle, lots of these people are sitting. So that's the understanding. And when I was there, first the chair sort of sets the stage, lays out the ground rule. Sometimes people think that they can just kind of open the mic and sort of blabber blabber, but this is not the place. This is, and I don't know how nicely we can say that, but we have to set that tone that, these are important discussions and we're really looking for insights, etc. Then we invite either those 5-minute messages or, people to speak live. So the messages could be pre-recorded. So Bhanu, could you please go to the time and agenda that we were sharing just now, the names? My hope is that we will get the ONCD, the Cyber Office of National Cyber Director, Camille, to give us 5 minutes. So that would be great from the White House. We will get Madan, or executive director, or some, that level of Interpol person. They have already committed. Camille has not committed yet, but we are in touch with the White House and we have sent a form to ONCD and they will provide us a speaker. So it could be either the top lady or it could be somebody else. So those two. FBI OSEC, Ellen Tanner, who's the executive director of Overseas Security Alliance Council, basically an arm of FBI that oversees all of the world that is outside of America and coordinates with them. She is the person who is committed to us. And we just, Bhanu, can you take a note? We just have to send Madan and Ellen invite. VEF or Accenture, that's Kathy Lee or Denise Chang, either of the two. And then that means we need to send an invite to Matt, Kathy Lee, and Denise. Copy Matt, send it to Denise. And then there is India CERT, Europol. I know Philip is not here, but I look to Philip to connect us with somebody at Europol that could potentially contribute here. And all, as well as Philip himself is somebody who is a former Europol person at the executive level. So we'll invite him. And we'll invite somebody from India CERT. We have an indirect connection, but if anybody knows any CERT agency people that they want to invite, that would be great. I also have a direct connection with EuroCert, Hanu. You can probably note that as well. We need to send them an invite. Canadian Cybersecurity Center, they are looking to co-host with us, but they have not yet confirmed. So I'll send them a final sort of nudge. It's a bureaucracy a little bit, so they have taken a sweet time. So we're giving them some time. If they do not end up co-hosting, they will certainly send a representative. They will most definitely send a 5-minute message, so that would be great. And in place of them co-hosting, I will speak with another one of our senior advisor, Peter Cassidy, who's currently in Barcelona to do some cybercrime convention. And as soon as he's back, I will ask him. So you can check out the website www.apwg.org, and he is connected to every major CERT agencies and over 2,100 different organizations that he gives out cybercrime information to. So, and he is the person who actually founded National Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaign, and which was later on approved by Obama administration. So he would be a great, liaison to do the co-hosting. CISA, we've sent a request to Jen Easterly, and GPA is something that is a global privacy alliance. Nandita, you're probably most familiar. This is an alliance that hosts every major privacy commissioner around the globe, and they are members there. So if they were to agree to co-host, which is also invitation is out, but I haven't heard back. And finally, we will have somebody to speak from Meta as well as ITU. This is something that I have to send an invite. Banu, that's another one of those tags. But Meta has committed to send a representative as well as somebody to speak for those 5 minutes. So that's like, you would start to notice that the first 40 minutes is a bit more very much handpicked to demonstrate and also push these agencies to look to what we are setting as a narrative. And then I'll pass on to the rest of the agenda. Then we'll have a break, and then there will be 2 subtopics.
One question. It looks like you have connections. There are some, open outreach in the works. Do you need this program committee to help you find more speakers?
Yes.
Or make more connections? Is that an action item for us?
That is certainly an action item. So here's what could happen. Even though I'm saying we could get this,
Yeah.
not work out. They may not have time. They may not be interested. So beyond that, it's not just 8. We want more than 15 to 20 people to show up, to talk, to record their messages. They may not get all airtime during those 40 minutes, but if they share and record a message or share links, we will host that on our website. And we might even publish it through our social media. But their message would certainly go into the post-roundtable report. So let's say there is somebody from Japanese CERT or NICT that, Kohei and I were discussing. If they send a message and it's nighttime so they can't attend, we will host that message on our website underneath their headshot or right next to where their name is listed. So we certainly please take the pre-approved invitation or redirect them to the Roundtable interest link. That's the website. That's on the MSW website.
And other than Meta, we're interested in other private sector folks too, or primarily public sector.
100% we are. Any Microsoft, OpenAI, anything, or even just like, developers, anybody that's interested in our agenda, we are interested.
Okay, cool.
Also, if you see there's a section called pre-approved contributors section, moderated subtopic 1 discussion for 20 minutes. So we will also be pre-approving some speakers for this particular section as well, as in for the time allocation. So we might need more speakers for filling in and putting their views for these kind of
That's the thing. We trust this committee so much that whatever you bring is essentially pre-approved, because you're not going to bring marketing person to talk about cybersecurity. And there are a few marketing people who are trying to get in the sort of a line. And I'm like, no, you're not going to get in here, no matter how famous you are.
Okay. So Banu, can you please link like the template that this program committee can send to invite speakers in here? Okay, so we have this.
We have a template. I'll add all that.
We'll just track action items on this agenda so that and if anybody has any comments, please feel free to comment in this text box so we keep tracking. any questions from the program committee on this first part of the agenda on these recorded messages? Okay, I'm seeing head nods. Looks like everybody's okay, and we'll reach out to our network.
One heads up, Nandita, if I may get that in, is that because we are essentially the hosts, we would want to restrain ourselves from speaking too much when we get to the discussion, because we'll have limited time and we want to allow our guests to speak. You can, and you're highly encouraged to record not just 5 minutes, but like a 20-minute message. And if you want to showcase on MSW website, you want to add to post roundtable report, which you will have direct access to in a draft stage, you will be welcome to. But it's just, because there is a limited time, we want to highlight others and not ourselves, if that makes sense. Unless it is to align the discussion back into like what we really need to talk about.
Sounds good. Cool. This seems like we have an action plan. What is the deadline to make make sure that we send out these requests and get confirmation on who is the speaker or who's sending out a recorded message? Should we put a line in the sand and say anything like by 30th November or some date?
Yeah. We have a mock-up session that we will do on the first week of December, which we will decide today when. By that mock-up session time, we must have every order of the speaker, everything kind of finalized. Right, Hanu?
Yes. Yeah.
So
So if
should
that's the case, then maybe
I think we need all to finalize it by 30th of November.
well, the 1st of December is that Friday. Should we go to the end of that week, or do you guys want that day to go to review stuff? I'm just thinking about timing.
Right. Right. So 3rd is Sunday and 4th is Monday. So maybe we can, and the week of 4th is when we are planning to do all the these mock-ups so that we are prepared for the next Sunday, coming Sunday 10th, when we do the MSW. So I think we can take till Sunday or Monday to finalize if that helps to give more time to
What is
people.
the date? Sorry, I'm not looking at my calendar.
Yes. So 3rd is the Sunday.
Okay.
3rd of
So
December.
I'll just say
that's
3rd.
3rd December. Yes. Sunday. So that should be one final date when we can ask everybody to confirm.
Oh, sounds good. And we'll send out weekly reminders just for this group.
Right.
Kimberly, did you have a comment? Aligning. Perfect. Okay, so we'll move to the second part. After these recorded messages, there are going to be 2 sections, 2 moderated discussions. So Kavya and I connected earlier and we thought, how about we break these 2 sessions? There's a lunch in between, so it'll be clearly separated. To have first discussion focused around the problem space. What are the threats? What are the risks? And then the second session is more solution space, where we are offering guidance, technical, policy, awareness from all perspectives. So I'd like to use this time, maybe the next 15 minutes, to think about subtopics. Is there like some injection points or some prompts we can use to guide this discussion around the problem space? Maybe if I can get this team to collaborate and give me 5 bullet points for this moderated discussion, and then 5 questions we should ask as part of the Swarm AI exercise. And we do the same thing then for the solution space.
Nandita, do you want to share the abstract of the subtopic first?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, it's all in the doc. So these are suggestions purely for like consideration from this committee. We're not tied to any of this.
So Jordan, everyone, first I was like, oh, let's do offensive and defensive. And then that's so polarizing and so deeply technical that it's so alienating. And this was like, Nandita was like, hey, why don't we do problem and solution space? Because no matter what kind of a stakeholder, like a multi-stakeholder folks, can latch into that thought process from so many different perspectives. And I thought that was really great. And then we basically fed Nandita's thoughts to ChatGPT, which basically spit out a fancy title.
They're using AI to talk about AI. Yeah, great.
Basically.
You know, I think this first topic, I mean, in my opinion, is great. This is reminiscent of a lot of the other questions that I'm getting and things that people are asking me to talk about recently, which is separating the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. What are the real threats and problems versus what are the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that surrounds a lot of the kind of, oh my God, this is going to ruin the world kind of stuff. Kind of getting out at like what actually people matter about, and also about the fact that it's a rapidly changing landscape. So it's not something where you maybe want to do some threat modeling and maybe review this kind of stuff more often than you had prior things in the past, just because things are changing so fast. And I think getting that out there in front of people is going to be a really good idea.
Panujit, you have your
Yes. I just wanted to add to this. So I just did I was just listening to a conference somewhere. So they were saying social engineering is also a threat and a risk. It's a threat to a company also because since we are talking about AI risk and threat. So we know that social engineering is a big aspect of it. So social engineering is a threat for a company as well as for individual. For individual, it's for behavior changes, while for company, it's because other people can come in and play with their algorithms and manipulate people, right? So I think, does this also sound familiar to
Absolutely.
with what we can add here?
Well, and do we want to talk about do we want to leave it up to the speakers to address specific questions, or do we want them to identify the specific threats? So like social engineering, for example, is definitely something that we've seen threat actors use. Threat actors have for a long time used the same tactics that marketing firms do in terms of identifying and tailoring messages for social engineering. And AI solutions have enabled them to do that, per target, basically, just like marketing has, where you can have an
Right.
a Gen AI platform, modify, your campaigns uniquely for each individual. And I've seen some of that kind of stuff. But is that getting too specific for what is a 20-minute discussion on this is
is
barely
yeah, this
scratching the
is
surface.
yeah, I feel this is too specific,
Okay.
Jordan, because just thinking about the audience that will be or like the participants, they might not be security professionals. So maybe, but this is like a brain dump exercise. So we can
Sure,
just
sure.
whatever we're thinking, I'll just note it down and then we can, iterate on picking the best fit topics. So I go ahead, Kavya, and we can just speak without raising hands.
Yeah, no, I was following Panu's protocol. So when we start to talk about social engineering, or let's say other kind of a cybersecurity granular threats, which, I mean, if you think about currently a API, so all the AI agents can now have API access, especially if you're integrated with OpenAI, and they can literally run arbitrary code.
Mhm.
Can you do something about it? No. Is it worth talking about? Maybe, but would you alienate the rest of the people when you talk about API security? Yes, you would. So my suggestion would be to zoom out and talk about sort of like the traditional known threats that will be amplified, but then emerging threats that we got to keep track of. And I really love the point that Jordan was making, like, hey, the threat modeling that we used to do like once a year or twice a year or something, now we got to go in the mode of a constant threat modeling, but that could go into the solution part.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's my 2 cents in this case. Like, so we do go granular, say, oh yeah, social engineering could be an example, existing threats, etc., but it's not to say let's dive into it.
Well, and on that point, it might be worth, as a general topic, one of the other things that we've been reminding people about is, yeah, all these systems are integrated. They provide APIs. There's that kind of stuff. And what that means is that securing the AI platforms and models themselves are as important as the infrastructure that they're running on. Because at the end of the day, these systems are new and apparently magical to folks, but there's still information systems running on platforms that have to themselves be secured, and all the classic risks still exist underneath all these things. Don't forget that, in other words.
How about we take the next 5 minutes? Does everybody have access to this doc, and can they edit it? Perfect.
I don't.
Yeah.
If you could give me access.
Panu, can you make sure Marco has
Marco, I
access?
just did. As in, can you?
You did? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or,
I actually
can-
just did not reply on the chat. I thought you were.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Right. Let's take 5 minutes. Everybody, let's put in at least one topic that you would want to be addressed, like you think would be a good, broad enough topic that a cross-functional group of speakers can actively contribute to.
Jordan, I think it was your point, like platform security is just as important.
Mhm.
Would you go as far as saying, instead of just saying the platform, but it's like security at every single stage, model selection, development, testing, yada,
yeah.
yada.
So
Yes,
maybe
it was
platform and
traditionally
lifecycle.
important. Now it's like absolutely inevitable, including like infra, corporate, etc.
Yeah. So I say platform and lifecycle. I mean, they're two separate topics, but it's kind of related at a high level. Lifecycle may not be the right word because we're talking about the entire acquisition cycle, but I guess that matters from ongoing management too. We might play with that one a bit, but yeah, it's a very good point. It's the tech stack and the related processes in managing, acquiring, managing, and setting up the stack. All those things matter.
Something I come across a lot, and it looks like since last October, when ChatGPT was made public, like common sense went out of the window in a lot of organizations. They started throwing from every department, from DevSecOps, they started throwing stuff into ChatGPT without any threat modeling, risk assessment, vendor management, and like anything went. And something I have to deal with a lot now is kind of trying to rein in people and say, it's like OpenAI have to update data classification policies and what's acceptable. And OpenAI, funnily enough, got their SOC 2 thing this week or last week, which may mean or mean nothing. But still, there's a lot of things around reviewing sub-processors. A lot of people there's companies spinning up, just have a connection to OpenAPI or another 20 models, and then you don't know where your data goes. And the company cannot even answer that question to their kind of customers. It's, if somebody raises the question like, I have no idea.
That's a really, really good point. And we've talked about, just a few years ago, we used to talk to people about how the adoption of cloud technologies meant that your third-party risk was really fourth, fifth, nth party risk. And with the AI platforms like this, it makes it even harder to figure out, okay, whose technology we're really using, consuming, and where's our data going, and who's responsible for validating and knowing those things, right?
Yeah.
Last minute to put in your thoughts for this one.
Just one quick comment with seeing all the list that's being built and the point that Peter was making. I think we need to add there, so we said, emerging threat, traditional threat, and all this stuff. But like Peter's point, speaks to the second part of our topic, which is data protection, and who's, data protection with like kind of like a shared responsibility. And then, the third party vendor risk program and all this stuff kind of wraps into it. But if we just definitely put data protection as a keyword so that the speakers have some hint to, dive
I
into
think,
it.
Kavya, that will be part of the second subtopic where we're talking about solutions.
Yeah,
True.
what do you do about it?
So we'll move.
Nandita, would informing people would also be part of the second, as in how do you
Yeah.
better okay.
Yeah, like the
Totally.
so this would
inform
focus it
people
just
about
why this is a problem, why this is a big enough problem that we're talking about it, and is this a real problem versus like somebody like imagined risks.
right.
So
How are we going to fit? I mean, so we're brainstorming ideas now. We've got 12. Each of these 12 items could be 20 minutes to itself. How are
we
we
will
going to?
just we'll pick three. We'll pick three from here because we will have at least 4 people talking about it.
Sure, sure.
So this is like just a brain dump exercise. We'll just put the list in here.
Well, and I
Yeah.
would say the rest of these, whatever we don't pick, I mean, it'd be worth saving these and setting them aside for like webinar style stuff later. I mean, these all are great and things worth talking about.
We can use
Honestly, post roundtable report is a perfect place to place this
Yeah.
because that's not a transcription. It's actually an artifact that means something.
Awesome.
I mean, another idea is we use the ones that were not picked as the top 3 to create these swarm AI questions that pick your top risk from this area, like, or we can like massage it into other areas. So all good. It will not be a wasted exercise. So we'll definitely leverage it somewhere. Okay, so should we go through like a voting exercise to pick which ones we think are going to resonate the most with the broad audience?
I think, yeah. How do we want to do that?
Maybe we do a swarm on that later, Nandita.
Okay.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
invite David and do a swarm in one of those meetings. But
Sure.
let's move on to, in the interest of time as well.
Sure.
Yeah, makes sense. So all right.
Let's use the tools we're going to ask other people to use. Great idea.
Cool. So maybe we also skip the swarm AI questions. We'll use this list to generate some talking points for us for the next meeting to pick from and vote on it. Okay. Lunch, and then let's talk about the second part, and I'll quickly scroll down so that everybody has a few minutes to read the solution space abstract.
Right off the bat, I was against, this is ChatGPT's suggestion, so incident response to not be part of the main theme, because that's a bit too technical and does alienate other multi-stakeholder folks.
Well, yes, and I would also say that we could generalize that a bit more to a discussion of the risks in terms of folks really should think through what happens if their use of AI goes wrong and how bad can it go. I mean, that's not necessarily incident response, but it is something that should be considered and planned for ahead of time. In other words, you should have, if not a full incident response plan, some way or some plan for responding to, hey, this thing's going off the rails.
Kavya, to your point on like the terminology, incident response is very security specific. Do you think risk mitigation in metaverse is a broader term, or do you have any other suggestions?
Either or could just be response strategy, or response strategy that includes risk mitigation. But risk mitigation does depending on the approach, some people just leave it on the onset, like I am accounting for all the risks. I don't know. I really don't know. I'd really look to others to help.
There is something between BCDR, incident response, and kind of break glass response. What do you do if something goes wrong with your API integration with, and something takes over in similar scenario where somebody would take over your domain or your Google Webmaster Tools and mess with your brand or what, your SEO or whatever? How do you? Yeah.
What about contingency? Is a good zoomed out word. Contingency and response that everybody kind of understands in English language.
Yeah. But I kind of like the idea of it being general to responses in that there are multiple types and things you might be responding to, right? It's not all just, incidents. It could be performance and behavioral issues. It could be
Mhm.
unexpected consequences of integration, all that kind of stuff. Perception and PR too could matter, right? Sort of the fallout of people learned you're using AI for something they didn't expect you were, and maybe that's problematic.
I'm in a position where I deal with a lot of startups. I don't know how I end up here. And in the last few months, it's all LLM, this, that. And I was speaking to one, we're going through PCI DSS and like looking at their environment. They were uploading the transcription, the recordings to an LLM somewhere with credit card numbers and all that stuff. And
Ouch.
they hadn't realized that. When I said, where is this? Oh, it's an LLM, but where is it? Who controls this? Oh shit, we haven't thought of that. So it's there's a lot of, as you said, brand reputational risks and kind of caught off guard when somebody asks you, where is my data? And
So I hear like 4 keywords: risk mitigation, contingency, response, and then I would also add defense.
Well, and not to make, we're avoiding sales and the plug thing here, but the data classification thing, like asking the question up front, can we answer these questions? Can we answer where's our data going? Who's got access to it? Who's touching it? That kind of stuff. Those are key questions. And regulators are already asking those questions of people that are using AI technologies and have been indicating that they're going to be asking those questions a lot more often.
Hey, what's AUP?
Acceptable use policy.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Acceptable use policy. Can we also right next to it write data classification and mapping?
Yes, go back to the window.
Sorry, been out of the corporate a bit longer
No
than
worries.
usual.
The amount of AUPs I had to update in the last couple of months, like people stop putting stuff in OpenAI, ChatGPT.
Well, and then having the conversation with the folks about like, that sounds great and everything, but it's too late. You can't stop it. It's
Yes.
it's built into
Yes.
stuff whether you like it or not.
Yeah, every person and their dog wants to use GPT stuff.
Well, and it's being integrated into things. I mean, it's going to be rolling out into like Windows and Office, and Apple's encouraging it for the development of any new, App Store apps and stuff. I mean, it's you can't avoid it, just like you can't avoid the internet anymore. It's the same thing. It's just
Right.
happening faster.
As in
Kim,
yesterday,
policy and governance wise, do you have some kind of a, things to add to here as well?
We can take another 5 minutes to just again put a list of topics in here and then discuss it.
Sorry, was that a question for me?
Yeah, no, for everybody. Nandita is saying 5 minutes. Let's all put.
The trouble is with stuff like ChatGPT and LLMs, it's almost like a Google search engine type of thing. So it doesn't fit. It's not a marketing tool. It's not a engineering tool. It's not. So it has to be kind of reviewed from a high level and say, this cuts across everything. It's not something that IT uses. It's not something that HR uses. So it has to be considered from a policy level on many different. It cuts across too many domains, so it's not a one area.
like it's a transformation technology. It's a disruptive technology that will affect every area and the way we operate and learn and think and everything. Should we also bring in why this fostering the data protection response strategy should be part of boardroom discussions? And I don't know if it's still being discussed at that level, but should we bring this up that it should be it's important to
definitely.
Yeah, feel free to put that in, Bhanu, as like a escalation or a board level issue subtopic.
When it dovetails with the things like in the US, the SEC's, new rules were requiring boards to have greater oversight with stuff. They've already been doing that in Europe and Canada and in places for a while. So it's going to be one of the things that needs to be part of the communications going forward, because they're going to be asking the question, how are we dealing with these things? How are we addressing these things? You know, am I going to be surprised by questions I get from investors and from regulators about these things?
The one thing that I do want to kind of compel ourselves and other speakers as well, we're talking about AI powered some sort of metaverse. We should upfront sort of talk about, when we do talk about metaverse, we're really just talking about these convergence of various different technologies. And so the focus being on that aspect and not like corporate security traditionally, now third-party risk management. Like, how is our current processes, policies, all of that is going to be impacted now that we have massive amounts of data coming through the XR data pipeline or something. So this is certainly going to be a very awkward effort, but we have to constantly push for emerging tech. Otherwise, we're just sitting around and doing the same thing that everybody is doing, is they're talking about fixing a problem of the past and not preparing, and we can even use that keyword, preparing for uncertainty is what practically we are, that's a discussion we had at the Medical XR Council, is designing for uncertainty is what is necessary for these systems. And we are designing for utopia, dystopia, predictive modeling, but we're not designing for uncertainty because we really don't know what's going to happen.
That's a really good point, and it's worth talking to about solving current and future problems or predicting them as opposed to just past problems. But it's also worth noting that some folks' existing policies, I mentioned like social networking, for example, is a useful template in that, hey, we've already been talking to people about like, be careful about data you share and which platforms, and it's worth saying, hey, that those same concepts apply to these newer technologies and stuff. In other words, letting people know that you're not necessarily starting from scratch.
Right. I have one observation. So I don't know if anyone has seen that recently. Google DeepMind released a weather forecasting tool which can predict more than 10 days and do predictions using LLMs. Right, it's all using LLMs. So can we use LLMs for as in predicting security threats and all of that? Because since we are talking about prediction, and if weather can be predictive, which is more complicated than a security threat, then can we predict those things and use LLMs for predictions?
Yeah, there are multiple open source
Okay.
implementations using LLMs for like developing attacks so that we can proactively, like more red team space, thinking of new scenarios of attacks and then solving for those proactively.
Well, and using them to identify, hey, we've seen this activity. Does this look like something that could be correlated to an attack? Using LLMs to identify those kind of stuff, or asking it too in terms of your, what kinds of actions would generate what kinds of evidence of certain attack patterns and stuff. And they're really useful for those kind of brainstorming scenarios, because they can generate things. You can get 10 or 20 examples out of an LLM faster than you can get them from people. Although the novel solution. Well, now we're getting way down in the weeds. There's some genuine, that itself could be a long discussion. But to short answer your question, Bennett, like Nandi just said, is absolutely. We're doing it already.
I think it is doable, but should we depend on it more, or then how much control should those things take in the metaverse now that, since we are now going in the metaverse, and depending on the type of data and the amount of data that one is generating, is it possible for humans? I don't think it's possible for humans, and we need to have continuous predictive modeling on that data to understand what is happening and who is where and who is doing what.
Yeah, there's definitely a need to, and I'm not sure, this might be something for the upper area before, where there's going to be the need to rely on those kind of systems, because like you said, there's too much data and too many instances of the need to do the analysis for humans to do it. We really need, other than like armies of people that were paying to sit in rooms and doing it. So we need to rely on AI for that. But putting implicit trust in the systems, especially their accuracy and the conclusions from that analysis, is itself a huge problem.
It's I understand.
Could we note it down as a bit more zoomed out keywords as over-reliance and
over-reliance and
human in the loop? Yeah, over-reliance and human in the loop.
Yeah.
One other thing, high level, is data residency. which a lot of companies are breaking by dumping stuff in an AI or whatever. The other area,
more in the
yes.
Peter, is that a problem space discussion or the solution space for data residency?
It's both. It's, you know, the problem is if they're having considered that and they're putting stuff in US servers, whether they need Canadian servers or German, you know, US, Europe, and then either the cloud providers or whoever's providing the LLM have options to store your data, whatever you wish. And the other point is kind of to Kavi's point about XR is at the moment, kind of there's two models. There's the Apple model and like the Google model. Apple is coming up with this, I can't remember what it's called, the glass thing, and it's a closed system. And how do companies offer access to their data in a secure way through secure protocols or frameworks? Who defines this, and what they should be kind of adopting? I think it's a very good question.
So should we put like a framework, standards, model? Like, how do you? I have like a broad design patterns for data protection,
Yeah.
like catch-all bucket, but should
Could we
spell?
put right next to contingency and risk mitigation, where we call it as shared responsibility?
Yep.
And next to the need for regulation, we can also put a keyword called frameworks and standards.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, Kavya. Because a lot of these
same sentence, not the separate one.
All right.
a lot of the companies, like I talk to, everybody's using AWS, GitHub. So there's a shared responsibility model where AWS, GitHub will take care of things to an extent, and then whatever they build on top and integrate, it's their responsibility. But what they choose to use, again, has to follow some principles.
Good. I think this was super helpful to start. Like letting maybe like Bhanu, you, me, and Kavya can come up with the Swarm AI questions as something for the program committee to react to, based on some of these. Because what I heard from the Swarm AI discussion was we need to have like 4 or 5 options. It can't be a free text question. We need to either have a rank, ask people to rank their the solutions in preference of effectiveness or something like that. We'll have to, every question will need to be a multiple choice question. So we have to come up with 5 of those for both session 1 and session 2. Cool. So we have about 12 minutes left, and Kavya and Bhanu, do you have any like AIs that we have to talk about?
So, Nanita, if you just go at the top of the on this document, of this document, so I would like to share 2 information. One is that we as a programming committee have to approve the incoming responses that we are receiving from the Roundtable interest form.
Okay.
So there are 2. So if you see approve, so there's Excel sheet approvals contributor interest form. Yes. So if you open this, there's a sheet called cybersecurity, 4th sheet. Yes. So here I'm adding in all the names of the people. So in the Roundtable interest form, there are 2 type of candidates who are we are receiving interest from. One is pre-approved by XRSI, so people whom we are sending an invite. So for them there is specifically a date that we are selecting. So their responses will also come here, and we'll segregate them as we will know whom we are sending. While there are people whom we have not asked, but they want to speak, it's an open roundtable discussion and it's a call to speak. So their names will be here. We just have to filter them by deciding whether we as a team, so we'll have to assign. So you see the column B, review by, will add, as a programming committee, will add our names to the individual incoming responses, and we'll review the responses. If you go to the right, there's the LinkedIn details, all the documents that they have submitted, and any other details. So using these details and the topic that we are finalizing, we'll have to evaluate and then decide whether we are allowing them, and or if not, they will be part of the pre-approved speakers for those two subtopic discussions. So from here, we are finalizing if we need if any one of them are good for the top 8, else everyone else would go to the subtopic group discussions when they can come in and ask for a mic and they can share in their ideas.
Sounds good. But maybe we can connect offline on like form, whether we use a Google survey or something. So just so that there's no bias and we have multiple people approving the same recording, like listening to the recording and saying that, is this okay, not okay? Is that what you mean? Or even, or are you saying that?
Recording actually. So by responses, when I say, so this is an interest to contribute. So this is just an interest form, and they have not submitted anything yet apart from their basic profile details or anything. So it's just an evaluation of finding out whether they are the right candidate to be the final one of the contributors to speak.
But why don't we ask them to just send the recording and we'll review the recording?
Recording is the next stage when we finalize them, right? We are not asking everyone to record now. So once we have finalized the people top 8, so yes, so the recording is second part. So we haven't decided that we'll do the recording for everyone, people who are not able to speak on the first day when we created the form. So it's just something that came up later.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we will need to give them time enough to submit a recording, unless we're going to let them do it so far after MSW, right?
Yes.
I feel like we don't have that much time to like do this in 2 steps, Bhanu, but that's just my
as in, what 2 steps are you kind of thinking here?
You're talking about 2-step approval. Let's go with what's the easiest and the quickest, Bhanu. So let people send recording, and if we approve them, then they either go on the website or they get showcased.
Yeah, we can ask them to either like send, if they don't want to record, they can send the text. So that way we are
currently that's not a part of our invitation, but let's update that line. And yeah, let's do that because there is very little time now. Yeah.
Understood. So we'll ask them whether if they want to contribute, they fill the form, or else send the recording, and we will evaluate both and do it under one step. Okay.
Exactly. Whoever gets approved, either they become active contributor. They either go on a showcase of 40 minutes, or their recording goes on the website, and that's it. And it's actually a good evaluation point too. Otherwise, all we're doing is looking at their LinkedIn.
Okay. Sure. And then also, if people have to record and put and decide, because they don't know the topic, right, on what they're speaking for.
Yeah.
So how, I don't know on what recording would they be making.
No, but sorry, Kavya, sorry, I cut you off.
That had been our constraint so far, is we didn't have full fleshed out programming, but now that we do, we can kind of add that to the agenda on the website.
I think the topic name is, Bhanu, like if somebody needs to submit, like if this is a general enough topic that they should be able to put their perspective for either the problem space or the solution space. Because
else, Nandita, if you see, there is an option here whether they would be doing a live or a recorded session. So here we are saying, okay, so that was our goal, that whether if we would have finalized them and asked them whether if they are able to speak, then they would have shared the recording based on the final topic and the agenda we would have shared with them, right? But now I can update that on the form, then they can submit a recording, which is fine. But it's just that we'll have to we cannot drop them just because it's not relevant. No, that's fine. So I think what Kavya was saying was we will find a space for them either on the website or as part of the live event.
Somebody collaborating on their recording, we will drop them, and I will totally drop them. Be like, somebody comes in and wants to be a marketing hero and they have some knowledge of cybersecurity. I'm sorry, no, you're not worthy. It's okay. You can take your 1 million followers and hate me. But come on, let's have a serious bloody discussion. It's not a time to just create a stage for a bunch of people to want to be a hero.
Yeah, Sure. Yeah. As in I'll update the form to also include video recordings now so that people
Or
can submit. Yeah,
or
yeah.
an outline of your talk, right? Like if you want to submit like 2 paragraphs on what you talk about, you can submit
Huh.
that
Understood.
too. Because a lot of people don't want to record themselves.
Yeah.
It's a little high
Sure.
fiction thing.
Understood.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll the talk, and then recording should go to our email address, not to the form, Panu, because otherwise it will be too much of a disk space issue.
Okay. Then we'll have to add certain instructions there to send the recording to a particular email address. Yeah, got it.
You got 5 minutes.
Yes. So, and the other instruction on the form, Nandita, was
Oh,
that
give me one
that
second. I just
yeah,
want
yeah, it's no issues, no worries. So there are three roles basically that we need for this particular to organize for the particular day on 14th on 13th of December, which is notes taker. We need a timekeeper, and there is a technical curator role. So I think we have finalized the technical curator role, and that is. Yes, Kimberly and Peter. So Peter and Kimberly would be helping us to do the technical curation of the report. So they would be going through all the details and the resources that we receive from everyone, and as well as the notes from the meeting, to then curate the final report. So we'll have to finalize the format, which we will do in the coming weeks, and based on that, we can keep adding certain information on those documents so that we are kind of prepared for the day to just go and add information on the sections, and then we are good for publishing. So these are the two roles. Please feel free to add your name if you wanna. If you're listening into this later, please feel free to add your name here in these two roles, notes keeper and timekeeper and notes taker, or else we'll have to just assign it to someone.
Can I also request every committee member to fill out the Roundtable interest form and put in XRSI affiliate and pick up your 3 days that you want access to. We're not going to give access to every, just not going to be able to give access to every, but you will get mic access. You will be active contributor to your 3 preferred days. Those 3 preferred days should include the day that you're a programming committee member for. So cybersecurity, child safety, policy, whichever one you want. But please fill out the form so we give you access. And it pick in XRSI affiliates from the role. If I may just one more logistics, we have a profile generator link. Panu, it's in the standard guidance for chairs. I believe we could just copy that over. So I would really appreciate if everybody updates their profile with the MSW profile, as well as we can provide you some kind of banner and social media stuff that you can update your banner on the LinkedIn. And we will create a social card that says, hey, I'm proud to be a programming committee, or I'm going to serve as a programming committee member for this track. And then, you can use that to, create a social post for yourself. So just to recap, the programming committee members are doing 3 things. Number 1, approving members, inviting sponsors, inviting community partners, inviting whoever they think is relevant, and inviting everybody else to just be a passive observer. You can invite whoever you want. Be like, hey, you want to be a passive observer? Check out what we're up to. Second thing, they are contributing to the insights for Swarm AI, which we'll do in the next one, which we just now kind of started. The third thing is the post roundtable report, is where we will put our resources, links, and how we want this artifact to produce value for the community that's just going crazy. AI, what to do, hype. So we want to cut through the noise and create something that's actually useful to our key stakeholders, policymakers, OECDs. 7-8 speakers are going to be there. Meta's 2 speakers each, active contributors, and bunch of observers. So we have major eyes on it. And also White House policy director, she waves at me and I was freaking out. Kavya, and I'm like, oh my God. And so we have some major eyes on these reports. OECD goes to 38 different countries. I'm going to be part of their focus group for this year or next year, and a bunch of you are also invited. I'm going to plug in. So this is a huge artifact that we will produce. So think about that.
Right, last minute, we'll send out an action items recap email with everything Kavya mentioned, including templates, social cards, invite emails. I wanted to align on when do we meet next. Next Friday is Thanksgiving, so I give everybody time off to spend with their families. But does Friday, December 1st look good for everyone? Maybe either same time or a later time?
The first,
time
yes,
works.
it worked for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. So we'll send a calendar invite just to make sure we can hold time on everybody's calendar. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.